The rules of sales keep changing, but the rules of trust never do. Welcome to Bridging Generations in Sales and Outreach. This is the show where every generation can learn to connect, communicate, and earn the trust of their buyers. I'm happy today to have Eric Jones as my guest, and I am want to thank Aardvark Group for producing the show. So welcome, Eric.
Hey, Butch. Thanks for having me, buddy.
So Eric, I was telling you before, I've lived both sides of the hell we're going to talk about today. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Before we hop into that, just give me about 1 minute on how you got to where you are today.
1 minute. Okay, let's see if I can do this. So I got into where I am today because I was one of those frontline employees for so long. I saw how so many leaders misled or mismanaged teams and organizations. I got to be a manager. I got to be an executive. I did things better. And I found that it wasn't always about one person. It was always about the leadership team. And then that has propelled me into the coaching that I do today, where I work with leadership teams and leaders that are building leadership teams to make these amazing organizations.
So Eric, if I understand correctly, you work with mainly founders, CEOs of, in the big picture, smaller companies. I mean, all companies are fairly good size. What's the number one issue you run into with these founders, CEOs?
The biggest issue is they think they can do it all, or worse, they are doing it all and they haven't figured out how to give it up. And that could be a solo founder that is doing everything and maybe handing stuff off to contractors here and there and slowly building a leadership team, or wants to build a leadership team. But a lot of places it is a leader or an owner that has a team of leaders, but they haven't built the trust and they haven't built the ability where they can hand things off. So everything still flows through them, whether it be questions, requests, approvals. I don't know where something is. It's all coming through that single person, and they become the bottleneck. And they may realize they're the bottleneck, but they don't realize how to get out of it. What's worse is when they don't even realize they're the bottleneck, though.
So Eric, tell us a story about a situation you had where the CEO clearly had a bottleneck but didn't know it.
So many to choose from. I would probably say one of the more recent things that I had is I was working with a company that the CEO had built a great culture. He had built an organization that was thriving, but the way and what they operated in required too many companies and too many people to sign off on something. It was always decision by committee, with everybody looking to the CEO to say, is this the right answer? Is this the right choice? So it was one of those areas where that's where it kind of masked the ability that the CEO was the bottleneck, because it felt like, hey, we got a committee, we got a group of leaders, we've got a board or whatever you want to call them that's making these decisions. But when they're always looking to the CEO to get approval for those decisions, or do we feel like we're doing what the CEO wants, that's when that kind of hidden idea of the CEO being the bottleneck really comes out. And it wasn't until the CEO started to get frustrated that everything was coming to him. And even when things were coming to him, they weren't executing to those decisions. That was a pretty clear sign there for them and the CEO that, hey, something's not right here. We need to dig into this a bit more.
So Eric, I know I've been in sales for decades, dealt with all kinds of owners, CEOs, sales leaders. I can't imagine that it's a really fun conversation when you tell the founder CEO that it's his fault.
Yeah, no one likes to be told their baby's ugly, or that they've got the wrong thing going or they've been doing it wrong. And that's probably the hardest thing about what I do as well is this isn't something that someone's going to mention in a general meet and greet or networking event or something like that. This is a conversation that people have in private. It's either a conversation between spouses, it's a conversation between friends. Maybe you are a co-founder and it's a conversation between you and the other co-founder. But I think the realization and the best clients are those that actually realize that there is a problem. And yeah, they may not realize that they are the problem. And the great thing is that I've never had to tell a CEO, you're the problem, directly. It usually comes out during our coaching sessions, during our process, where they're like, oh, that's my fault,
So
or, yeah,
I'm sorry.
we lead them to the decision.
You lead them to there, right?
Exactly. Which is great because we want them to have ownership of that. And if I just turned around and said, hey, Butch, you're the problem, you're going to be defensive on that. You're not going to be happy with that. Not only that, but you're not going to own that. But if you turn around and say, hey, Eric, I really feel like I'm holding this team back. I really feel like I'm not putting the right people in the right places. Now you've got some ownership there and you've got more of a desire to fix it. I always say three things. You name a problem, then you have to claim it. It's either mine or I'm going to solve it. And then you fully own it. You own the execution, you own how it outcomes, and you go forward from there as it would be.
Yeah, you mentioned having the right people in the right place. I'm a huge Good to Great fan, and
yes,
I had a coach. This was years ago when I was the founder that thought I had to do everything. Mm-hmm. They told it was a she, and she told me, you've got the wrong people in the wrong seats on the bus. So at that point, I knew I was in trouble.
And that's so common too, especially for small businesses, because as an organization grows, you think about how a company gets started. It usually starts with a single person or a very small group of people that do something really well, and they want to take what they do really well to the masses, but they don't do everything really well. So they get to a point where, hey, I needed someone that can do sales. I need someone that can manage this. I need someone that can manage that. And they just promote whoever's right, the right person. But as the organization grows and evolves and matures, they don't ever go back and reevaluate. Are we doing the right thing? Is the person in the right seat? And people usually hear that right seat, right bus, type of mentality and think, oh, well, you're going to come in and fire a bunch of people, or you're going to come in and clean house, or you're going to tell me that I'm not fit to do this job. And that's never, ever the actual reality. If anything more, we bring clarity to what your desire is for the company and what you want to do in that company, and really help you to find the best place to be the most effective in that company.
So Eric, if I'm a CEO, founder, company's getting a little bigger than I thought it would be. What are the warning signs for a leader that he or she is controlling too much?
I mean, frustration is the first one. Like as a leader, they're getting frustrated with either output, they're getting frustrated with staff, they're getting frustrated with things not getting done right. It feels a lot like we are just putting out fires all day long. We're doing whatever we can just to keep the business afloat. Larger and more serious signs of trouble are things like attrition. You've got a high turnover rate in your frontline workers. You've got someone that you thought was valuable that leaves you, and they leave you for a reason that's kind of like, really? That's why you're leaving? Like you're leaving for a few dollars more. You're leaving for maybe a different title or something like that. When you know that I could have provided you the same thing, that's also usually a good sign that something's not quite right there.
So Eric, the theme of our show is bridging generations in sales and outreach. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've learned, and I'm sure this comes up for you dealing with the CEOs sales leaders. Um, it it almost seems like there's some companies where it's the old people against the young people. And what I have found is when we do bridge that gap, old people have things to people that are older have things that they do better. People that are younger have things they do better. When that comes together, it's magic. But it seems to be a real problem to get that to happen.
Yeah, and I think that that's the case. I mean, when I talk to a lot of companies, I'm 50. I don't look it. So thank you right off the bat for all of you that are watching this and say he doesn't look 50. But it is. It's just like in a family. The teenage kid always thinks that they know more than the parents do. It's
Sure.
generational. It doesn't matter who you are. It's the same thing in a company. Your younger workers are going to come in, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, have lots of great ideas. They're not as battle worn and battle tested as some of the older people in the organization are, but they all have to realize they both have value to bring into it and everything. And the older generation can help to steer the younger away from making some of the same mistakes, while the younger generation can come in with some fresh ideas, or maybe understand that, yes, I know you tried to do A before and it didn't work, but did you know about 1, 2, and 3, which now makes A possible? And that's the other thing that I think we kind of lose sight of when we are looking at the younger generations of, yes, they may try to do the same things that we tried and failed at, but they've got new technology, they've got new learnings, they've got new ways of thinking that can totally change the outcome, even though it may be the same path that we tried in the past. And that's pretty powerful right there.
Yeah, Eric, I heard you say this somewhere. It's about aligning the old and new, not the old and new. One has to be right and the other has to be wrong.
Yeah. I think alignment's a big piece of it. And, just like in any type of relationship, alignment, let you know that you're going in the same direction and that you're shooting for the same destination. You're looking at the same outcomes. Alignment, though, can also mean the difference between understanding, is it the left hand or the right hand that's talking at this point? And alignment, I think, has to do a lot with trust. Alignment has to do a lot with understanding, and it has to do a lot with listening. We as leaders, or we as employees, we have to listen to be understood. Is the key there. We don't want to just be listening just to nod our head and be like, yes, I listened to what he said or she said, and we moved on, but listening to truly understand. And that's where I think when you listen to understand, you can truly get some great alignment, because now you truly understand the motive, the underlying motive or the spoken motive of whatever's being communicated.
So it sounds like to me, it just to sum up what you're saying is it takes trust from everyone, and then that communication can happen.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you've got to have trust in order to communicate, but you've got to communicate to build trust. It's one of those double-edged swords. Like if you're not doing one, you're not going to get the other. But if, and it doesn't have to be done perfectly. I mean, as an employee, I've gone into a lot of organizations where I didn't trust my leaders because I didn't know anything about them, and I've been a leader who didn't trust some of his employees because I didn't know a lot about them. And I think that's where, when we're talking about alignment, it's also understanding and aligning to, well, what are the motives of the person that I'm working with and where are they going? And can I align with those and help them meet those? And when you can start to align to the motivators, especially the internal motivators of somebody, you can build so much trust so quickly.
Eric, I've heard you say you want to turn the boss into a mentor. I would think that might be a huge challenge, and I believe if you can do that for them, that would put them in a tremendous place.
Yeah, that idea of a boss becoming a mentor is something that we've seen really evolving, I would say, over probably the past 10 to 15 years in work industries. We look at generationally speaking, our grandparents, my grandparents, it was a boss and employee. You showed up, you punched a card, you did your job, you went home. Like, you didn't know much about your boss. We look at my parents and the outputs that they did and how they worked and everything. And it was that whole idea of I'm kind of the leader, and there was a little bit of extra work that goes into it. But really, in today's generation, we're seeing more and more employees coming in that want more than just someone to tell them what to do and where to go. We want someone that's going to help grow them. And that's really where the mentorship comes in. And we spend a lot of time working with leaders on healthy one-on-ones, so that way they can have that mentor-mentee relationship without having to go to school and become how to be a coach and a mentor and read a bunch of books and all those different kinds of things. I mean, but the value that they get out of it is they get happier, healthier employees that feel seen and heard, which then goes back again to that building that trust and that alignment.
Oh, yeah. I imagine there has to be a lot of trust in that, but I would love to work for a true mentor than a boss.
Yeah, I think. I mean, who wouldn't? You always hear and see on like LinkedIn and everywhere else, people don't leave bad jobs; they leave bad bosses. I've had my fair share of bad bosses, and I think the reason why they were quote unquote bad is it wasn't that we were bad at their job; they were very good at their job. That's why they were in those executive roles. They just weren't really great at cultivating those beneath them. And that's what a mentor really needs to be looking at, is cultivating the people beneath them so that way they can grow. I mean, I've always had the philosophy, and most of my good leaders have had the philosophy, is hire someone better than you. Hire your replacement. It sounds so counterproductive because you don't want to be replaced. You don't want to be taken up. But if you continue to do that and someone does replace you, in that sense, more than likely, you're going to replace the person above you, as it would be as well, which is going to work out great for everybody, So I think it's really important to kind of keep that in mind. And I've always tried to hire people that are smarter and better than me, because I don't know it all. Just like a CEO and a founder, they don't know it all. That's why they hired a sales manager. That's why they hired an operations manager, a finance person to do all those things. Those people are going to be the smarter ones than you, for sure.
I had a friend who always, I said I had a friend, unfortunately he died, but I had a friend, he always said, if you want to get promoted, get your boss promoted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the reverse way of looking at it. And that's the way I think that our generational looked at it. Is like, I want to do a good job, so my boss looks really good, and then they'll get rewarded, and then I'll get rewarded. The generations coming in, it's kind of reversed of that. It's not that they're selfish, and I hear that, and I cringe every time someone says that they're selfish, or that they're self-serving, or that they don't care about my company. And it's not that they don't care. It's just they're looking to see, how can the company help me more than how can I help the company? And their thinking, which is great thinking, is if you can help me, then yeah, I'm going to help the company. Because I'm here to do a job. I'm here to do great things. And if you can make me a better employee, if you can make me better at whatever I do, drawing, printing widgets, hammering, whatever, then yeah, I'm going to be much better. And that thereby, through that, you're going to get the benefits of me in the long run. So it's the same mentality. It's just looking at it from a different perspective.
So quick answer here, Eric, because I know you've done this. So you've reinvented yourself several times.
Yeah.
And I believe what your message to the CEO is not, you got to change a bunch of things. It's that you've got to reinvent the way you're going to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through
and empower people to do it.
Yes. And that's the biggest piece, is empowering the people to do it. I was able to reinvent myself because I had people and opportunities that allowed me to do that. I was a sales guy for many years. I got tired of knocking on doors and dialing on the phone. That led me into web development. I talked to my sales manager and let me build a tracking and sales team for our organization. And that was my first web development project, which then got me a next one and a next one. And then I got tired of learning a new technology every 3-6 months, as it is in the IT software world. So I got into program management. I got into coaching because I could see that I could do better for teams. The key there is that you can always reinvent yourself, and a lot of owners and founders, they have been doing that from the very beginning and they just never realized it. And they got to that point now where they feel like they can't reinvent themselves. And what they really want to do is they want to invent themselves back to why they started the company. I want more time with my kids. I want more time to pursue other avenues. I want to start another company. That's, as a serial entrepreneur, getting into one company and staying there forever is hard. Like, you want to have 3 or 4 companies running, and you can't be the bottleneck for all of those. But that's where, if you can reinvent yourself, and more importantly, reinvent the people below you, you're going to get everything you wanted.
So, Eric, what comes to mind to me is you're guiding people to use proven leadership, things that work, but being open to a new perspective.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not doing anything that's rocket science. I'm not doing anything that's groundbreaking. I'm not doing anything that someone couldn't go out and, with a really good Audible list, read and figure it out on their own. The difference is that I'm short-circuiting all of that. I'm making it more effective, but I'm also helping to bring it to your perspective and to bring it to what it is you exactly need. You may think you need to increase sales, but really you just need to increase your sales manager, as it would be. And I think that's a little different than what people think of, when they think of, I need coaching or I need help in these kind of things, or I need to do something different. They think that I'm going to be there to make that person be better. I'm going to make the owner better. I'm going to make the owner do more. When in reality, it may just be, no, we're going to identify how we can help others to do more. I tell some owners, like, look, I want you to make 90% less decisions than you do today. That's scary, especially for someone that's been making those 90 odd decisions out of 100, every week. But that's going to free them up to do what they really want to do. But it's also going to empower their people to do what they want to do. There are people in your organization today that are hungry and wanting to do more. Let's go find them.
Well, you may have just answered my next question, but my next question was, if you have an owner who accepts that he has a bottleneck, what's the first thing you tell them, or the most important thing you tell them before you get started?
I think the biggest thing that I can tell them is that they're the bottleneck, not because of a choice or one choice that they made. They're the bottleneck because of a series of choices that have happened over a series of time, months, years. So we're going to unravel that. So the process and that we go through is not fast. It's not going to be something that we can do in a workshop. It's not going to be something that we can do over a series of a couple of months. Yes, we will see some big wins early on. Just as with any change, when you start to exercise and diet, you see weight loss, boom, big drop in weight loss. But then you kind of plateau out and you got to work a little bit harder to get the next couple of pounds or the next bit of muscle and everything like that. It's the same thing in these kind of things. We're going to see those big things. So just understand that however long your company has been in business, 5, 10, 15 years, you've had 15 years to create the bottleneck. It's not going to take 15 years to unbottle that bottleneck, but it will take a little bit of time. And the more that they are patient and willing and open to that, the faster we see results. It's when they start to get resistant that it doesn't help. I love that saying of, like, you hold on to something so tight, but you've got 2 fists. You can't grab something else. You've got to release something in order to go get something else, as it would be. Right. And that's what we're going to work to do. We're going to help them release so that way they can go grab something else, whether that be time with family, spending time on the boat, going fishing with your friends, or starting that next great idea that you have.
All right, Eric, we're getting near the end of the show. One question that I ask everybody on the show to end: what would Eric today tell Eric of 10 years ago?
Don't give up. Embrace everything you're learning, and know that what it is today will not be tomorrow. I think that's important because we tend to be in the past and think that this is how it's always going to be, or I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to go this way. And if you have that mentality, you're not, you're not going to make it if you have that idea that you can't. I truly believe that everybody can. I don't care where your situation is or where you're at. There are people around you. There are systems around you. There are organizations around you that are going to make you be awesome. You just got to find them.
Well, Eric, speaking of finding them, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do it?
I mean, the best thing to do is hit my website and then email me. As I always tell my clients and even my prospects and people I know, email's free. So email me your questions, email me your thoughts, your problems. I'm more than happy to take time out and just chat with you. I love talking to people. So go to my website, schedule a call with me. Let's have 15, 20 minutes and just get to know each other and chat. If I can't help you, I promise you I know somebody that can, and I'm more than willing to make that introduction.
Well, you stole my last line. I'm willing to help anybody any way I can, and if I don't, I've been around a long time, and there's a good chance I know who can, and I'd be happy to point you in their direction. Best way to get in touch with me is butch@theaardvarkgroup.com. And I appreciate you joining us for the show today, bridging generations in sales and outreach. And I want you to remember one thing if you don't remember anything else: revenue follows reputation. So go out there and get it.